tennis games. They've existed since, well, Pong. And for a while, it seemed like we'd reached a point where we got as far as a simple tennis sim could go. After all, how much more complicated can you make the sport of hitting a ball back and forth?
You cannot be serious!
Virtua Tennis seemingly came out of nowhere to become an arcade and console smash hit. But just how good was it? Now, the first thing that struck me as a teenager when I saw this game was the graphics. I'm not exaggerating when I say this, but when the local bowling alley first brought in the arcade cab, I thought it actually had a televised match on it. It looked so real. Sure, in modern resolution, some 24 years later, that may sound strange, but on a small CRT, it's actually looked photorealistic. It's still one of the best looking games of its era, even by modern standards. Its bright, bold and crisp visuals are extremely pleasing. The sound is great too, from the menu sounds to every hit and bounce on the court. It all comes across as authentic and polished, working with the visuals to present a brilliantly polished and authentic TV-like experience. Music is also phenomenal. From the opening Australia theme, the game hits you with excellent soft rock tracks that feel perfect for the game, and it doesn't let up. It's not the sort of soundtrack that you'll find yourself listening to over and over, but it fits the game perfectly, and it's an embodiment of the Dreamcast sound from that era. It's the gameplay though that is all strawberries and cream. Put simply, it's wonderful. You have just 2 buttons, hit and lob. But through these, your on-screen racket smasher can do just about anything you need. They'll hit forehands, backhands, overhead smashes, and they'll even dive, depending on their position on the court and where the ball is. Now, this may sound like it makes the game oversimplistic and easy, but this context-sensitive automation of your shots allows players to put focus in placing their shots and really drives a more realistic depiction of professional tennis. Gone are the days of Pete Sampras on the Mega Drive or Super Tennis on the SNES, where rallies were rare. In Virtua Tennis, the back and forth is frequent, owing to the game's easy to pick up nature. And it certainly isn't easy. Every opponent from the CPU to all your friends all have the same advantages, and Virtua Tennis quickly ascends into the sort of fast-paced tactical tennis action you'd see at the highest level. You pick from a selection of 8 real-life players with varying attributes, which makes them all unique and satisfying to players. Sadly, the superstar and then current Wimbledon champion at the time, Pete Sampras, is nowhere to be seen. But you do have UK darling Tim Henman. Arcade mode sees you go through 5 stages of steadily increasing difficulty and presents both a tough challenge and a ranking system that urges replay. What's more is that you can play through arcade mode as a single or in doubles, which makes Virtua Tennis both a co-op game and in match play a fantastic experience for up to 4 players. Honestly, 4-player Virtua Tennis is one of the best experiences of that entire generation, and it feels perfect for the Dreamcast with its 4 controller ports. And if the limitless multiplayer fun doesn't hook you, the Dreamcast port introduces a fantastic World Tour mode, filled with crazy minigames and an assortment of challenges as you climb from the lowly rank of 300 to become number 1 in the world. Virtua Tennis is a sporting masterclass. The gameplay hasn't aged a day, and while there were numerous sequels and series that it inspired, the original game is still incredibly compelling. It's arcade tennis perfection. And hey, don't just take my word for it. My 15-year-old son couldn't put it down at one of the gaming festivals this year, which just goes to show the game is still a smash with all ages.
I love Virtua Tennis, and I'm just going to set my stall right away because for me this is the finest tennis video game ever made. Never mind Top Spin on Xbox or any of the Virtua Tennis sequels, there's something about the original Virtua Tennis that nails the sheer simplicity of the sport while capturing the essence of what makes it such a great sport to watch and take part in. Visually, it's gorgeous, and I know there's numerous comments about the sunken dead eyes on the character models, but for me, that's harsh. Each of the players on the roster is instantly recognisable to tennis fans from the era. Tommy Haas, Carlos Moya, Cedric Pioline, Thomas Johansson, Yevgeny Kafelnikov, Jim Courier, Mark Philippoussis and Tim Henman are your choices, and each brings their own unique playing style to the court. Just don't expect to see Henman Hill whenever you play at the Old England Championship. The player animations are superb and fluid, with the game running at a rock solid 60 frames per second. Every backhand, forehand and serve is so convincing, and as Dan said in his segment, in its day, this game could easily pass for a live match on TV. The courts themselves are worthy of a mention because they set the scene superbly and are all based on real life Grand Slam locations and leave little to the imagination. Australia Challenge represents the Australian Open with blue stands and its green hard court. The French Cup is instantly recognisable as Roland Garros with its red ash clay court and dark green stands. Likewise, the US Super Tennis event is inspired by Flushing Meadows' Billie Jean King National Tennis Centre with its octagon-shaped stand formation and hard court, while the aforementioned Old English Championship is clearly Wimbledon. The courts themselves have lots of little graphical and audio effects that help bring the game to life. Your players' feet squeak as they shuffle and turn on the hard courts. The red ash on Roland Garros' clay court kicks up dust clouds as your players shuffle the baseline, leaving footprints behind and showing where the ball landed. And if you've ever watched Wimbledon, you'll know that come the finals, the baseline and areas of the court are worn down due to weeks of play. Virtua Tennis captures this all perfectly. The attention to detail is what sets Virtua Tennis apart from any tennis game before, and arguably since. Sound-wise, the game does a great job of merging realism with that classic Sega arcade feel. I've already touched on the sound effects, but the music is right up there with some of Sega's best, introducing a different Sega rock, if that's not a term, or a genre, it should be, a different tune to each event. This all counts for nothing though if the game plays poorly, and thankfully, Virtua Tennis is a joy to play. Serving consists of hitting the A button at the right time as the power meter fills up, with your player's shot choice during rallies being determined by their position to the ball and the direction you push on the analog stick. The B button returns the ball via a lob, but if used at the wrong time, leaves you open to a smash, so try to draw your opponent into the net first. Rallies are insanely satisfying in Virtua Tennis. Playing on easy becomes rather pointless, but even on normal difficulty you can be sure of some lengthy rallies, especially in the third round and above. And if you really fancy a challenge, you can play your full match on the VMU. Yes, that's right, the on-screen action is mirrored to the VMU in your controller, and you control your little stickman representation of your player on there. Content-wise, Sega did a great job of fleshing out Virtua Tennis for the home, with 4-player support allowing for amazing doubles matches with mates. The main course though is the World Circuit mode. This career mode of sorts lets you start at the bottom and build up your player of choice via challenges and ranking matches. There's even an in-game store to spend your accumulated funds on better equipment and unlockable players. There's no in-game purchases here. Before the dark times. Before downloadable content. Safe to say, I can't recommend Virtua Tennis enough. It's got an addictive single-player arcade mode, multiplayer support for up to 4 players, a deep and bespoke Dreamcast-only World Circuit mode, and plenty of minigames and bonus content to keep players returning for more. Game, set and match, Virtua Tennis.